According to Sisam Bangla, president of the African Panel Beaters and Motor Mechanics Association, the APMMA, the right to repair policy is hampered by a lack of enforcement from both government and the private sector. Bangla says that the APMMA, which initiated the process, lacks sufficient resources to educate the public on their right to service and repair their cars where they choose. He says public awareness remains low.
There's a lack of an enforcement on the government and in the private sector side, because there's been a lot of resistance. But we keep on persuading the manufacturers, and there's always different traps, and there's no education. People are not aware of what you know. So, and we as the associations who initiated this whole process, we don't have enough resources to go out and educate people that they now can have service and repair their cars where they want, which is now called the right to repair. So it's coming gradually, but the more we're getting involved and engaged in such events and activities, we hope then that is going to go out there.
The economic climate is taking a heavy toll on consumers and by extension on repair businesses. Bangla says the members of his association report that cars are often kept longer in workshops because owners struggle to afford repair costs. At the same time, many consumers are unable to purchase new vehicles.
They buy used cars, which they don't have history of those cars, or whether they are in good condition or what. So once you still have a loan from whoever gave you the loan, the bank or whatever, your car breaks down, and then you still have to service the loan and you still have to repair the car on the other side. So it's a tough situation.
Lucy Magwa, co-founder of Autofix, a female-owned panel beater, echoes these sentiments, noting that business is not good as it once was. Magwa says because clients are cash-strapped, it is becoming harder to please them.
A lot of clients are expecting way more for way less, which does obviously put a strain on us, especially when we have to replace parts. I mean, we don't manufacture parts, and parts prices have gone up. And a lot of clients, we've seen that they've kind of stopped really insuring their vehicles, and now they have to pay for their repairs cash, which again puts a strain on us as the repairer, because they do expect a lot more for a lot less.
Adding to the industry's challenges is the escalating influx of imports. The National Association of Automotive Component and Allied Manufacturers, NACAM, points to rising imports as a worrying sign that fewer locally produced cars are being purchased. Berth Diltry, head of policy and regulatory affairs at NACAM, highlights that localization remains low.
I turn to some of our aftermarket segments. You've seen the exact same effect taking place in the tyre segment. The same applies to windscreens, where effectively global competition, but particularly global competition from the East, is rising rapidly, and there's simply no way South Africa can compete with some of the prices that we're seeing imported product coming in at. And I don't think it's a indictment on South Africa's competitiveness. It's not a matter of South Africa isn't competitive. I think automotive manufacturing regions around the world are grappling with the exact same problem, which is China is producing at such scale with such a huge amount of support that effectively the prices are pushing out local players.
NACAM is advocating for a policy that includes direct incentivization for the parts replacement market, arguing that this market is relatively independent of original equipment manufacturers and can still thrive even if OEM sales decline.
So the replacement market doesn't necessarily overly benefit by consumers holding on to products for longer or by buying imports. It is a relatively independent market to OEMs, i.e. if OEMs aren't selling, there is still an aftermarket that exists. And so I think it's important that we get direct incentivization and support into the aftermarket and really push a kind of buying local agenda. From the OEM and the component manufacturer supply into OEM side of things, that's a much more complex policy question to ask. I know at the moment we're about to enter review of our main policy program, the APDP, which is in phase 2. And there I think both us as NACAM, but all of the kind of key constituencies have put in place or put forward some proposals which ultimately hinge on a few fundamental factors, which is how do we support or improve our domestic market so we're buying locally produced vehicles, and really for my constituency, how do we improve bottom-up competitiveness.
Jabulani Silumane, CEO of the Automotive Transformation Industry Fund, stresses the importance of protecting South Africa's production capabilities and safeguarding job creation to prevent deindustrialization.
What we've seen from a numbers perspective is that they've started obviously buying cars that are entry cars and affordable, And these cars in the main are coming from our Chinese and Indian counterparts, and has obviously eaten into the share of the traditional manufacturers who've been selling. In fact, if you look at by 2010, both countries, India and China, who are making some vehicles, were sitting well below 1% in terms of the market share, in terms of sale. We're currently seeing them sitting at 13% and over in terms of the market share. So we've seen that shift, and obviously what it does, it affects obviously our traditional producers in the ecosystem who are manufacturing cars. I think what we want to do obviously is to ensure that we protect the production capabilities that we have, so that we do not sort of de-industrialize. And this is important for job creation in South Africa.
Diabosito, SABC News, Johannesburg.